What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hanging Out with me and Taylor. This probably isn't the first time you've seen us together. It's become very clear now that when we have something to say and we know people need to hear it, we decide we need to talk about it. And we even thought we would do it in a different format. And here we are, landing on a podcast again. Hey, Taylor.
Hey, I'm like kind of foreseeing in the future there's just a private podcast that is like a few episodes a year. It's just Taylor and Steph felt desperately that we needed to have this conversation. And so we just turned it into a podcast. Like that, y'all don't be surprised if that's what happens.
Yeah, definitely don't be, because the collaborations just won't stop, and there's just synergies and what we need to talk about, and we do. You like to say, Taylor, specifically, no gatekeeping, and I think that's where we come with this. We're like, we're doing it and it worked. Here's the tea. This is scary. Here's the tea. And actually, I think that's what it is today, what we're covering and why we're here. It's a sensitive subject in many ways, and it's a really important subject in many ways. So digging into really events. And as people are attending events and people are hosting events, we've seen the rise of in-person connections. You host an event, so you literally handle the weight of making sure that everyone that's a part of that event, every stakeholder, has the best experience, what you assume is the best experience, and put your best foot forward. So we're coming at this for so many angles. I attend events, I'm starting to speak at events, and my community, my folks are starting to think about how do they get outside of the box that is social media and start building connections again, real connections. But how do you decide how to do that? That's really right where we're coming from. How do you do it safely? How do you make it make sense for your business? How do you determine the ROI? How do you know what event you should go to if it's worth your time and the sacrifices you make? So we have a lot to peel back today.
Yeah, and I took a deep breath because I was like, ooh, there's a lot that makes me feel a little nervous to talk about because this has become such a like hot button issue. Because if you're new to going to events, this might not be something you've ever heard before, but if you've been going to events for a while, which is more of my community where we're actively like networking in person, people are traveling for conferences, chances are if you've been in the event circuit for, I will say, more than a year, you've probably been to an event that overpromised and underdelivered. So now you're headed into this, you know how valuable those connections are. You know how some events change the game completely in your business or led you to a lot of sales or really incredible opportunities. And others, you were like leaving and walking out or sitting in your hotel room and you're like, why did I do that? Like what went wrong? How did I make a bad decision? Or, really feeling frustrated with where you put your time and your money. So I think this is a very timely conversation and also one that I think most people won't touch because it can sound like you're dissecting or criticizing event hosts, but in reality, it's actually a lot of responsibility and long-term planning and decision-making, but treating people with so much responsibility and care and acting with integrity in how you market your event, how you sell tickets, and then how you actually execute on that event. So I'm excited about this topic, but I'm also like, okay, this is a big deal. It's a big deal to talk about this.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rooted and Relentless. But wait, this is not like any other episode. I know I've said something similar before because I have a special guest series or I'm introducing a new topic that literally has never been talked about in our industry, but I mean it differently this time. This is nearly a 2-hour conversation that Taylor and I had that we're busting up into a 4-part series with very intentional subtopics to a master topic. And we're switching that between both of our podcasts. So one day you'll get an episode here on Rooted and Relentless, and the next day you'll get an episode over on the Power Table, Taylor's podcast. Don't worry, I'll drop the links in the show notes. We'll do that each time so that you can keep up and follow along, and we'll put plenty of reminders on Instagram to keep you on track. Like I said, it's a 4-part series. Episode 1 is dropping today on Rooted and Relentless. Hello, that's why you're here. Episode 2 will be tomorrow on the Power Table. Episode 3 will be back here, and episode 4 will round out the series on the Power Table, each day for 4 days in a row. What I really want you to know is what we're getting into. We're having an important, timely, sensitive conversation about attending and hosting in-person events, ethically, safely, and geared towards maximizing your ROI, your return on investment. As community leaders, we found ourselves holding this responsibility even heavier regarding what we attend, how we show up, and what we essentially promote by putting our names on it, what we say that we stand behind. And because it's not just our lives and businesses now, it's the businesses and lives of our community members who are looking to us as they expand their visibility efforts to see what events we're attending, assuming that it makes sense for them to do so. So it's more important than ever that we pay attention to that responsibility. And that's actually how this conversation came to life, because Taylor and I were connecting and chatting over that in the DMs and realized we were facing the same responsibility, talking about the same themes and problems. And when that's happening, we decide to shed a light on it. I'm coming to this conversation as a strategist, as a community leader, as a speaker, and someone who has spent 2 decades across operations, sales, client experience, leadership, strategic management, and high-level decision-making. When I attend, speak at, or publicly support an event, my community is paying attention. This 4-part series is rooted in that responsibility, an honest strategic conversation about what it takes to attend and recommend events with discernment and respect for the investment that it takes to pull this off. Because the investment isn't always just money, it's time, it's energy, it's time planning to be away from your home. Don't worry, we're getting into it. And I'm so excited Taylor was willing to have this conversation publicly as well. She brings an important perspective as an event host, but not just any event host, one with a sought after event that's getting referrals in rooms that she's not even in. So you're really covering all angles between the two of us in attending, hosting, speaking at events. Taylor is the founder of the Power Table, a community builder, an event host, and a personal brand strategist who has created intentional spaces for women in business to connect, to collaborate, and make real business decisions. Through Power Table Live and her broader ecosystem, she has seen firsthand how in-person rooms shape opportunity, reputation, and trust. So here's the breakdown of the 4 episodes and what you can expect. Episode 1 today, hello again, we're here, is how to choose events and what to spot. And we're getting into event red flags, green flags as a result, how to own your role as an attendee and lean in and make sure that an event supports your goals. So we're really laying the foundation today. Tomorrow, episode 2 over on the Power Table, we're going to get into how to be a standout attendee and actually realize your ROI. And if you can guess, those 2 things directly correlate with the other. Episode 3, back over here on Rooted and Relentless in 2 days' time, will be how event hosts can act with integrity and provide a stellar stakeholder experience for every single person who has a stake in the success or the failure or the mediocrity or the lack of integrity or insert other of an event. And then on episode 4, to close us out back over on the Power Table, we're going to get into how to protect your safety and your sanity when it comes to events, which has become an important conversation in our space. So this conversation is layered. This conversation is nuanced. It's deep, and it takes 2 bold leaders willing to have it publicly, which is exactly what Taylor and I decided to do. So buckle up, Buttercup. Grab your notebooks. Most definitely hold on to your tits because this one is certainly for you. I told my husband that I was reading questions last night, and like we talked about right before we hit record here, is I prepped a little bit more for this than I typically do because of the sensitivity of it. It's like, what do we want to cover? Is there anything off limits? Because we don't want to take that approach. Like, the goal here isn't to criticize anyone. It's not to bash anyone. It is to hit a responsibility that I know I have to my community and myself because of that, because of my experiences now that I'm going to more events. And I have the ones where I'm like, wow, whoa, insanely incredible. You know, why wasn't I doing this the whole time? This is so helpful. This is impactful. This is a catalyst. All of this. And then the polarizing opposite of like, I left my family for this, and that is defeating. And how do I put my name on things then that someone else may feel that and waste their precious time, money, and energy? I'm glad, Taylor, that you're not afraid to have it, because we know it's kind of like walking on the edge of a cliff here, you know, and cliff diving, and we're about to make it fun.
All right, let's jump. Why don't I start with the first question, if that's okay? Let's just start. I'll ask you a question, Steph. When you're thinking about events, maybe you've checked them out online, what have you seen or heard that instantly makes you say, just like, thank you, next, I'm not interested in that event? Give me your event red flags.
Okay. I'm going to keep this down and condensed. So every time Stephanie says that, it doesn't happen. So let's try. I'll say that until recently, it wasn't like a list. It was a feeling, truly. And I do a lot of that. Like the intuition, the pay attention. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. And what I mean is, are the stars aligning? The marketing, is it clear what you're doing? Is it chaotic? That's my first red flag, is if it's a month or two before this proposed huge event and things are a little bit chaotic or all over the place. Communication is another one, doesn't exist. And I've seen no clear delivery, like proof that you've done that before. That's one of them. That's a red flag. When I'm like, what is happening? If you're promising hundreds of people at an event, and again, it's a month or two before, and you really haven't been clear or consistent in your marketing, that's a red flag to me, because I know how this works on the back end. I know that there's numbers to it. If 150 people are going to be in the room, then you're talking to and marketing to way more than 150 people, right? And you can't possibly do that, depending on several different factors, in 1 month. So like these kind of red flags are if the math doesn't math, the intuition, like something's not there. And if it is clear to me, but again, sometimes this is the type of work I do, and while I like want to start to formalize this a little bit more in working on that intuition piece, is if it's your transformation isn't clear, and that's in your marketing, right? That's clear to me because you're using a lot of buzzwords. It's like clarity and confidence and chaos and all of that, where they were using again, versus what are you bringing to your people? When I walk in as an attendee, and I'm just talking about attendee right now, not even like as a speaker, what am I getting out of that? Who are your people? Who's your target audience? If I'm not clear on that component, then I don't know who I'm going to be moving in the room with. I'm not sure if it even makes sense, because there's millions of business owners online at different stages. My people, are they there? That's what I need to know. So an event page is coming. That's another one. I say, like, you have this big event and it's formal and it's going to be massive and it's going to be impactful and it's going to be life-changing and business-changing, but you don't have a sales page where I can go see all of that. You're just talking about it. And I'm not talking about a year out. I'm talking about months out. I'm confused. That scares me from an operations standpoint, because if that one piece can't get done, what else isn't going to get done? Because you have now overcommitted yourself. That's kind of what the theme comes up. I can start to spot when people have overcommitted, likely because it's a part of their offer suite, and less because, so when I say that, I mean like this is meant to now make money. It's another step to get people in their world and make them money, versus that shouldn't be the purpose of your event. That should be a byproduct of your event. So the disorganization, the lack of communication, the lack of even clear, like I should be able to spend 5 to 10 minutes surfing around your sales page and your marketing for this, and it be pretty clear for me to make a decision.
I think you hit on almost everything on my list. You really nailed them. One that I will add is looking for social proof of the results and the experience of past events. Now, obviously, if it's your first one, you might be hearing this and thinking, if you're an event host also listening to this podcast, which I hope there are event hosts listening, you might be thinking, well, how do I provide social proof? So a mistake I often see, a red flag, is when, as an attendee, I go to look and someone's promising a very large event, but they actually haven't done any other events. So a green flag is there were a whole bunch of small events that were iterations and community building and audience building long before a first time big event. And if I can't find that, that's also usually a red flag for me.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Let me put in an example. I have yet to host a live event, right, in my business. One coming later this year, not conference, like small, intimate retreat style. If I decide to host a conference at the start of next year, I have no reason, based on what I've just said, that I'm going to host maybe one live event this year and have about 10 people there, to come next year and give anyone reason to believe I can have 2 people show up at an event. That's just being honest with myself. Would I want 200 people there? Absolutely. The transformation, the impact that having 200 people in that room would bring, because of what they would touch, and then the ripple effect of what they would go and touch then, and the momentum for them would be great. And the money I would make, cool. I have no reason to believe, and I've given you no reason to believe, if I decide this year that next year I'm going to host a conference, that I can get 200 people in that room, because I haven't tried it and tested it and proven that yet. Even a fraction of that, if I go from 10 to 200. So again, the math isn't mathing there.
And to tell people that that's the case without any kind of proven, data points and past events to show that that's what you're building to, quite frankly, is fraudulent. Like, it's not okay to be telling people you're going to have 150, 200, 300 people in a room when you've never even had a tenth of that show up in person live, because in person is completely different than online.
Yeah, it's unethical. Exactly. Like you said, fraudulent. And it's just unethical. You're holding people and their dreams in your hands, in a way. And so much more than that. I think through myself, what I plan and do, what it takes for me to leave my home and go to an event, right? And that's a responsibility you carry as an event host. And your hopes and your dreams and your wishes are one thing. The work it takes to actually make that happen is another. And there's a disconnect between those two things when you start doing that. And the impact seems to be lost on folks. Like, not only is it fraudulent, but there's a ripple effect to it. It's actually causing harm to other people, which is just unethical. And that's not why we do business, right? It's not why we do business. Okay, the question I have for you, Taylor, you're an event host. What questions do you think attendees should be asking but rarely do? Or, how do they find this stuff? How do they look for that and kind of see this connection and make the best informed decision for them?
That's such a good question. And there is a significant responsibility on the event host to correctly market their event and provide strong communication, but there is also responsibility on the attendee. When I'm an attendee, some of the questions that I should be asking, either myself and the way I look at the marketing for the event and the, website and sales pages, or that I should be asking the event host directly if I can't find that information, are, who is this event for? That is the number one question that you should be trying to answer. And very, very broadly, especially in the entrepreneur niche and women entrepreneur niche, most events don't have a strong idea of who they want in the room. They'll just say business owners, women who want transformation, women who want to be inspired and empowered. If that's their answer, this is not going to be a good event. And it's not because the event host has, they probably have wonderful intentions. But as an attendee, I don't want to just be a broad descriptor. I don't want to just be a woman business owner. I want to know that you're very specifically looking for women who want to collaborate, women who are at a certain level in their business, or they are looking to develop a very specific skill set. Women whose priority this year is to do this specific thing, or it might not be women, but whatever the ideal attendee is for the room, is important to be able to find out so that you don't waste your time and money. So that's the first question. And be bold, ask the event host. If you can't find that information, ask them, because if they can't answer it, that's also everything you need to know right there.
You've done this longer and been to many more events than me. And so I posed that question to you recently, is if you can't find it, is that a no for you? How much time do you spend doing that? Because depending on level and everything, it's not shaming or being frustrated people who are doing this for the first time, because we all did something for the first time. But it is if I can't find that, how far do I go? And it's certainly, if they can answer it, then obviously we have our answer. But that's what it takes to get those people in the room. And as an attendee, we're looking at, what are your goals? Your goals as the attendee. Me, when I'm about to attend, what am I trying to achieve there? That goes for everything. I'm set a mini goal before you post that piece of content on social media. What are you trying to get out of it? Same thing on an event. What am I trying to get out of it? And everything that I find on that should be able to indicate that. So if I have a certain type of people I'm trying to meet, it's exactly what you're describing, that I serve in my business, and I need to know if they're going to be there.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is my second question to myself is, what is my goal for this? And generally I have 3 different goals for attending events. Sometimes it's all 3, sometimes one is the priority. One is education. Am I going to learn specific things? And so therefore I need to be very careful and intentional with the speakers and the workshops being taught. Sometimes my goal is connections at a specific level or for a specific purpose. So what I mean by that is sometimes I'm going very specifically to network with people who host events so that I can potentially build a relationship and get on their stage. Sometimes that type of connection might be brand partners, or I'm looking for podcast guests or to go on podcasts. So then I want to make sure that the right people are in the room to serve that goal. And sometimes the goal might be new friends, new ideas. I just want to be exposed to things that are outside of my bubble. And if that's your goal, that's great. You can take a little bit more of a risk on being at an event that you're, maybe don't have all your questions answered, or maybe you aren't quite as familiar with, but have a goal in mind. And then once that's crystal clear to you, ask the event host if their event will help you with that goal. I wish people would ask me this more with Power Table too. Like be bold, just get in their DMs. People genuinely want to talk to you if you're the event host. Like get in their DMs and say, hey, my goal is podcast swaps. Do you think that Power Table Live would help me with that? Because then as the event host, I can say, girl, yes, like here are all the people coming who have podcasts. I can already set you up to get podcast swaps before you even come. Like I already know who you need to talk to. But I can't ever deliver that experience if they don't ask. So I would directly identify that goal and then ask the event host how their event will help you with that goal.
Yeah, I love that. And I think there's also like a back end flip side to that in how we work in our communities, right? In that direct conversation, you could be giving them an idea. It serves you, but like if they don't have that already, it could be an idea. Now you've helped them build a part of the room that will serve you. And guess what? You didn't have to do it. They've done it, and now you get to show up and you get to participate and reap the benefits of that, if you will, by just starting a conversation and asking that question based on setting your goals. And I like that you're transparent. You always have been, Taylor, but one thing that you noted, like with your goals and breaking those down, thank you for that. Like, is it education? Is it connections? Because I did that last year. Like, they're smart and their strategy to it. I went to the Power Table Live because I wanted to meet you and get closer to you and connect with you to hopefully be on your stage one day as well, because of the power table, of the women in the room and the integrity. And that's what I did last year, and I will be speaking on your stage.
And now you're here on the stage.
So being honest about your goals is also okay. This is not like a secret society thing of see if I can figure it out and, reap the benefits. Be honest. We're all running businesses here. So it's not a secret. We know what you're up to. So if you're thinking about attending an event, when is it smarter not to attend? Even if everyone else that you've kind of developed relationships with or in your circle now are going to that event?
I think there are several smart reasons to not attend an event. So one is, have you already gotten everything you're going to get out of that room? I think that the more advanced you get in the attending events circuit and the networking circuit for entrepreneurs, which if you're online, it feels like that world is very big. The reality is it's actually very small. And so if you already know, 90% of people in that room, just because everybody else is going doesn't necessarily mean that is a good use of your time and your money and the time you take off of work from your business and the time you take away from your family to be there. There's definitely a lot of FOMO, and we can touch on this later, but definitely within this attending events sort of circuit, there's also, I think, and I don't think this is very healthy, but kind of a culture of you should go solely to support people. You should buy a ticket for mutual support. And also, you should come to just hang out with us. And I can say I've kind of been invited in both of those realms, and that's not always said with bad intention. Sometimes people are genuinely just wanting to include you. But at the end of the day, attending an event is a business decision. So it might not be the best decision for your finances or for your time. Maybe you're in the middle of a launch. Maybe you have already made a goal to step back and create more margin and space or take time off. And it can be really hard to stick to those goals and plans you set when someone else is in your DMs being like, girlfriend, you should come. And so recognizing that the only person who's going to know if that's right for you is you, and to not be swayed by that kind of peer pressure to go or just for mutual support, or if you've outgrown that room.
Yeah, I would second all that. I don't even think I have much to add, because it comes back to what we started to touch on too, is that what it takes for folks to go. You're taking time minimum and some sort of financial, even if it's a free ticket or whatever, you've traveled, all of that. When you can and should be consistently, everything in your business should ladder up to your goals and what you're trying to achieve at the end of the day. And just hanging out doesn't necessarily always get me to my goals. And I agree, there is a level of support, but support doesn't have to be showing up. Support can be if you truly believe in and support that event and that business owner. And I agree with you on the FOMO too, of like, that's what it is. Sometimes it's like, oh, I gotta be there, I'm gonna miss something. I'm not in the room with the people that I'm normally in the room with, and I'm going to miss out. What is your goal for going, and can it help you meet that goal for that event specifically and further your reach towards your goals? We're checking these boxes. If it doesn't check that, then your support can look different in some other way. If you still believe in what they're doing, you can support it in other ways, I think. I have a couple more questions, and talking about goals and going to events, there's a very real difference between action. I'm going to get something out of this. I'm going to, go, I have this offer, I have this in mind, I need connections, and just aspirational and getting pumped for things. How do you, Taylor, distinguish between an event that's aspirational versus one that's operationally sound?
I'll say this, a big part of this is like, what's the speaker lineup and what are the topics being covered? What's the actual content? Because an event could be both of those things and have the aesthetics and the experience. Like, you can have an operationally tactical event that also has great vibes and great music, and it's really fun and it looks cute and checks all the fun boxes. But whether it's aspirational versus operationally sound, I think a lot of that is going to come down to the content and the communication. And by content, I mean, what are the speakers? So look at the speaker lineups. If a lot of them are keynotes and storytelling, or, spotlights or like mini speakers, TEDx style, 10, 15 minutes, then that's probably going to be a more aspirational, motivational event. And again, that's not a bad thing. We need that in many points and in many seasons. And that's probably an event where you might meet some amazing people and you might leave feeling really good. If you are looking for something where you're like, I want tangibles when I leave, I'm looking for those very specific skills, connections, and I want an event that frankly is going to set me up for long-term ROI, then you're going to want to look for something that really is, like you said, operationally sound. So I'm looking for sessions that are structured networking. There is workshops, right? There's a chance for live feedback, mastermind style or hot seat style, or panels where people can ask questions. I'm also going to be looking for, is there a clear difference between a GA ticket and a VIP ticket? And a VIP ticket that simply has early access or front row seating and a cute swag bag, that's an aspirational event. If all they built in for their VIPs is extra goodies, then I know that their goal is simply to inspire and simply to motivate, simply to make people feel empowered and valued. And that's not a bad thing. If I am looking for a longer term ROI, then I want a VIP ticket. Even if I'm going for GA, even if your budget only allows for GA, I will look at that VIP because I want to see, what have they thought through? Is it clear that at every ticket level, there is a clear attendee journey and a clear attendee experience? And if that VIP has things like private networking, private cocktail party with the speakers, extra workshops, resources after, things like that, that to me is a good indicator on the sales page of an operationally sound event.
I like that example, and specifically that you're not saying use that as a tool to assess if it's aspirational or operationally sound. That's a really good tip. I love that. Super helpful too, I think, as people are continuing to go through what they're looking for, what is their goal for the event, what are you trying to achieve, what are you trying to get out of it. There's only so much available online depending on how the event is. So newer events, there's going to be less proof. They haven't done it yet, right? Well, some people have 2 or 3 years and they've already proven it, and you have all that you need to know it, and they've given that. And you know this already.
Wink, wink.
So, yeah, wink. I think that's really helpful to see the distinction between the two. First, no, I don't want that VIP ticket if that's the only difference, really, right? That's not what I'm there for. But also, that's an indicator. I really like that you give that example to use it as research. Well, if you thought this was steep, you are not going to want to miss part 2 of this 4-part series, which you can catch tomorrow on Taylor's podcast, The Power Table. We're going to get into being a standout attendee because, yes, that's one way to attract opportunities to you, and how to maximize your ROI. Hint, one of these directly relates to the other. I'll drop that link in the show notes, so don't miss it. And I'll see you back here for part 3 in 2 days' time, where we'll jump straight into how event hosts can act with integrity and provide a stellar experience to every person who has a stake in the success of that event, not just attendees, not just yourself, not just speakers, everyone. Because everyone who has a stake in your business, a stake in the success of your event, carries your reputation, and your reputation is your revenue in this business. Tell your friends, tell your mom and them. This is not a conversation you want to miss. I'll see you tomorrow over on the Power Table. Bye.